before the end, that you really want to have answered before the end of this session, please drop it in the chat. Paris and I will do our best to pay attention to what's happening in the chat, as will the speakers. And maybe they'll actually try to attend to those questions as they're talking. But if we don't get to your question, don't be afraid to ask it again before the end of our hour. Okay, Paris, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Paul. And I don't believe Stacy has joined us yet. So we'll start. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking because I think the students want to hear more from you than from me at this point. So thank you very much for sharing your little slides with me. Let me know. I'm happy to share the screen with students if you think that's necessary. And which one of you want to go first?
Ladies first.
I'll go first.
Okay, so Nikki, would you like me to share screen?
That'd be lovely.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here today. This is actually my first panel ever, if you could believe that. So really excited to kind of share today. And it being my 11th year of teaching, it's kind of a special moment for myself. So it's kind of really neat to be here. So welcome. And no question is silly. I will say that because the teaching journey can sometimes be confusing, can be overwhelming. So please, no question is silly. So if you want to start to slide 1, I'll introduce myself. And do you want to go to share or slideshow mode? Yeah, if you click on the slideshow, it'll go full screen for those who need it. Yep. See at the top there by my photo and by the P for your name, there's share and slideshow.
Okay, am I there?
Yep. Click. You have to move the mouse a little bit.
Which way?
To the right.
I don't see it. That's why I'm just moving.
Okay, that's okay. I can start here as long as that's okay for everyone. Okay, so I wrote this in a different verse. So my name is Nikki Franchuk. I was a DST student who graduated in 2010. Oh my goodness. I then went to York University for Teachers College. And right now I currently work for the Halton District School Board, which is Burlington, Oakville, Milton, Georgetown, Acton, if anyone's in that area. I started my career actually working and supporting individuals with disabilities. I started off as an educational assistant, and I worked 8 years in that position in a self-contained classroom for students who have speech and language needs. And most students ended up having some form of a learning disability. And actually through that program, I completed my entire course, if you can believe it. My goal was to finish it in 4 years while I worked full time, and I was able to do that. Through my journey, I was able to be part of an accessibility committee for the city of Burlington, and I did that for 5 years. If any of you have ever been to the Burlington Performing Arts Center, I was actually part of that build and ensuring its accessibility. I then was able to get into teaching, and I've had a number of support roles in my career. I actually started off as my first permanent position. I was a literacy resource teacher who did intervention with students. I then supported English language learners. I also worked in a behavior resource class with students with extreme levels of behavior. And right now, currently, I'm working in a capacity building role that focuses on literacy. I've been super lucky to have been acknowledged all the hard work that I've put into my career. So I've won several awards, and hopefully today I'm here to inspire all of you into pursuing your dream. You can go to the next slide, Paris. Thank you. So this is me. I'm a 2010 DST graduate, super proud. A few things about me that are really important. Always had a job that's had an acronym, if you can believe it, since I started. Some things that are really important to me that have kind of shaped my career is kind of making that commitment to lifelong learning, and always leading with intention and modeling kindness. Celebrating 11 years of teaching today, actually. I also was an EA for 8 years, which I really do value and appreciate more now as a teacher, to be honest. So anyone who's an EA, you're doing great work. My little mantra is I always do what is best for students. And thank you so much, Marika. And students who have exceptionalities or disabilities through this course and program has allowed me to put those students at the forefront of how I teach and what I teach. So that's kind of how I plan my instruction. Do you want me to kind of go through all the pieces, or do we want to give, because I know all of us are talking about different things. So would you like me to go through the whole thing?
I think that would be nice. Sure.
Okay, sure. And then if there's any questions, please feel free to share them. We can go to the next slide. Thank you, Paris.
Sure.
So once I finished Teachers College and got a position in a school board, the first position I ever got was an LTO, and that stands for a long-term occasional position. So you're usually a supply teacher and you're taking a short job opportunity for somebody, and that was in French. That was kind of my in, and I made some connections, and then I was able to get another LTO to start my first full year off in grade 1. So I worked for about 1.5 years as a supply teacher before I got my first permanent position. And once you are permanent, you are permanent. So I was a learning resource teacher, and in teaching, there are so many different support jobs. And this was actually a brand new position that our board had put out, which was small group, daily and intensive reading and writing instruction. If any of you ever get the opportunity to take on a job like that, there's so much learning with that. And to this day, I use all that learning from that position in the jobs that I do. I did that for about 3.5 years. And then I kind of shifted. As you learn and grow, you kind of get some new inspiration. And so our board was doing a lot of work around English language learners and how they acquire the English language. And there was the opportunity for a full-time position, and that was incredible learning. Working with teachers, that was an itinerant role. So there are sometimes roles where you're working at a school all the time, and then there are some jobs that are shared between different schools. And so that was a job where I was shared between schools. And I believe at that time it was 3 schools over the course of the week. I did that job for 3.5 years. And then I worked at a school who had the most bright and bold and exciting principal who invested in pretty much any type of learning that the teachers were interested in. And when you're working in a specialized or a self-contained classroom that is specialized for students based on a particular need, you really want to work for an administrator who understands those students and can support you in your job. That was probably the toughest job in my career, was working in this behavior class. There were a lot of expectations, but in those 2 years, I learned so much about myself, and how I taught completely changed, because when you're working with students who have behavior as their main identification, nothing else is really going to work until you're able to figure out why that behavior is happening. And so today, given all the needs and social emotional learning and mental health needs that students come into the classroom with, this job was honestly so incredible for learning and helped me probably be a better teacher today. And then right now, I'm super fortunate that I am doing a specialized job again. I told you I had every single job with an acronym, but my current position is an itinerant resource teacher, and that is a teacher who works in school Monday to Friday all year, working with small groups of students to essentially close the COVID gap but also close the learning gap that's happened over the last 3 years. And that's with the focus of reading, writing, and recently I do some math supports with students. You can go to the next slide, Paris. Thank you. One of the questions that Paris had shared with us is like, what is your path? So what are you going to do when you graduate to when you land your teaching job? And this is really a kind of a small kind of roadmap, but honestly, my inspiration kind of started with those 40 hours of community service. I was able to work with youth with disabilities, and that kind of propelled me into this direction. When I worked at a camp with youth with disabilities, I made a really great connection with a child there and her family. And that kind of was the beginning of my career supporting people with disabilities. First and foremost, I actually went to Fanshawe and I took their developmental services worker program. And I had an amazing placement at a school in a specialized classroom. And they were just like, you need to do something different than just being an EA every day. You have the skill to teach kids. I think I needed to hear that from a stranger to kind of put that into fruition. And so after that conversation, I looked into programs and I ended up finding, at that time it was called Ryerson, so now it's MTU, but they had this amazing accessible course that allowed you to complete your university degree online with a few exceptions of coming to class in the summer. It was the most accessible way that I can continue to work and also finish school. And I think the coolest part is like staying connected with those people. Like, for example, Paul, who's here tonight, is somebody that I went to school with, and we've still stayed connected all through this time. And it's the connections that you meet that kind of lead you on these really interesting pathways. So I ended up meeting somebody who guided me to apply at a position through Community Living Hamilton. And I started working with adults in day programs, and I just loved all the great things that we did to help support that independent living. I did that part-time while I also was an EA because school's really expensive, especially then. I can only imagine what it is now. But it's all about the connections. And so once I finished my program, I left being an EA so that I could start teaching. And that was the best decision I ever made. I was trying to remember my courses from a long time ago. I think what really matters the most is you need to kind of decide what division you're going to be teaching. So if you're teaching primary junior, which is the route that I took, I didn't really need to think about specific courses per se, but if you're teaching intermediate senior, which is grades 7 to 10 or 11 and 12, you do need different courses. I'm not that person for those questions, but I'm also happy to help find those answers if you need it. If I were to say the most helpful courses of the DST program were definitely the summer intensives. Those were my favorite, the most rewarding. You get to meet your professors who you're learning from, develop those connections, and then sustain those relationships over time. I struggled with this one because the advice, I could probably write a whole book on advice for new teachers. Honestly, I think the most important thing is when you meet someone that you connect with, kind of keep them as a mentor, stay connected, ask them questions, use that person to learn from and ask questions in that safe, kind of neutral way. I remember when I first started my first EA job, I met a beautiful teacher who I ended up working in her classroom with, and she is my mentor to this day, even though I'm 11 years in, almost 20 years in education, if you count the EA work that I did before I started teaching. And in 20 years, we're still connected, and I still learn from her, and I still value her, and she means so much to me. Risks. Hearing the word risks, I know that's hard for everybody. We've got so many things on our plates, but it's so important to take risks, to get messy. to collaborate and learn and share from other people. You want to be really open-minded if you're going to be getting into the teaching profession, because there's so many different views, so many different styles of teachers, how teachers teach. We're not always going to be on the same kind of level, but I think the most important part is that you're able to listen and learn from other people and kind of keep that positive mindset. I've been doing a lot of learning around this specific point. When you're pulling materials or resources, you really want to make sure that you have representation in the materials and resources that you're using with your students. That is probably the most important thing that I've learned in the last couple of years. And so as I'm picking resources or materials, I'm making sure that the students who are in my class are in those resources and materials. And if we don't have those, I'm asking for them. The one thing I'll say, in 11 years of teaching, we have tons of representation of people with disabilities in books that I don't think I ever saw, say, 15 years ago. So that's a huge win there. You're probably, if you're getting into the teacher program, you're probably thinking like, what is your first classroom going to look like? You're kind of envisioning what's going to be in the spaces, how you're going to build it, what you're going to create. And honestly, none of that matters, because you want to do that with your students. Everything that you do in your classroom or in your space, you want to build or create or normalize with students. That creates a really safe space for everyone to take risks, for voices to be heard, and for those norms for conversations that start. And you're also building character with your students. Something I've learned since COVID. Okay, everybody needs boundaries. Everybody, even teachers. Okay, I have worked so hard over the past couple of years to set boundaries and stick to them. And I'm really working on that work, learning, and life balance. Apply for Teachers College very soon. If you are looking into getting into your program, you want to figure out exactly what those important dates are, what that application looks like, and you need to get on that. Have someone read it over, make sure you're hitting all your points. So important. And last but not least, get involved somehow, do something, volunteer, run a club, ask questions, do something to make yourself present in the moment.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. That
You're
was
welcome.
Do you guys want to do questions? Like, I cannot see the questions. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see
I
everything.
wonder, Paris, if we should go through Paul as well,
Absolutely.
and then
open it up to questions.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And
Paul-
Stacy.
Hi,
Is
Stacy.
Stacy here?
Stacy
Okay.
is here. Paul, would you like me to share?
Nope, I can do that.
Okay.
Is it okay if we give you a time check?
Oh, I'll be quick. It's good.
Okay. Spoken like a principal, a vice principal.
So that's me, and this is going to be like 3 slides, so I apologize. So I was an EA in York Region District School Board for 4 years. Prior to that, I'd gone to Centennial College for my developmental social services worker, just like Nikki did at Fanshawe. And then I graduated from Ryerson in 2009. I did do it in 3 years. 4 years is better, but I did it in 3. Right after I went to Teachers College, York University in 2010, landed permanent in 2014. So 3 years of LTOs. So those long-term occasional positions where I was at a school every day teaching a class. I've taught kindergarten all the way to grade 8 from 2014 to 2023. That's a lot of time. In special ed as well as mainstream. So I've taught every type of class except for French and music. As of June, I switched to vice principal, and as of August 31st at Altona Forest in Durham, so Pickering, switched boards, switched everything. loving it. And the reason I switched to administration is it has more impact on the vulnerable students. Teachers have the impact, but as an admin, I can also direct teachers to focus on those special education students.
Big one, everyone does it, and it's graded. So yes, it's part of your grade. It'll be worth 15%, and then you can do 3 more over the term, 1 in each of those block of modules, for a total of 4.
I don't know.
And I'll take the highest 3 grades, right? Basically, if you miss doing this first one, then you can only do
Sorry,
the next
Paris,
3
I'm not sure how to mute.
set of modules, right? So that gives you only 3 to do. So if you want that best out of 4, you've got to do the first 2.
Wait.
Should do it.
Sorry.
Sorry, Paul. I'm trying to find the person. I thought I got them.
That's okay. So courses, I did primary junior, so there was no required courses. Primary allows up to grade 3, junior is grades 4 to 6. And then after teachers college, I took my intermediate additional basic qualification to be able to teach grades 7 to 10. So I can teach all the way from kindergarten all the way to grade 10. If you want to go to teachers college to teach high school, you need a minimum number of courses in that subject you want to teach. So for example, if you want to teach high school English, you need at least, I believe, 4 English classes, 4 full years, or science or whatever. But in order to do the intermediate senior, which is high school basically, you need to have 2 teachables, which is a harder pathway. So I recommend the primary junior pathway and then just upgrading after. And the unions often provide subsidies for courses. The 2 biggest courses that helped, DST 099. Yeah, Nikki, I remember the course codes, just the 2 of them. Helped because it encapsulated the whole DST program. And I brought this part into my application for Teachers College. So I know for York University, there was an interview and there was an application process. So I did write about what I had actually done in DST 099 and what I was doing. And then DST 501, it was the introduction to the social model. And y'all have all gone through it. So being in special education in teaching, I was able to educate my staff who didn't know a lot about the social model. What are the barriers in our schools? So like the lack of space or the lack of doors being opened. So those are the 2 biggest courses. And those are 2 courses I actually talked about a lot in my teachers college applications, because it asks what courses did you take and how did that impact your decision to go into teaching? Where am I? Advice, take required courses earlier rather than later. So if you want to do high school and you want to graduate next year, you have to take all those courses now. Build that strong network during the application process to support the highs and lows. So if there are people applying this year, and I believe, who was it? Let me just see. Antonella, I think, looked like she was applying this year. Build that network of people who are also applying, because y'all can share advice with each other. Volunteers, that always looks good on an application. If you have time, getting into schools to help if you can. Tutor in the classroom, if you're an EA, that's fine. Make those connections. If you don't have time, then be able to articulate why you want to be a teacher. For Nikki, she got a job like that because of French. I did not, it took me a little longer. Also, we're here to help, the 3 of us, along with Alumni, and Paris knows her shit. She knows her stuff. So she's a great resource as well, and I did go to her a few times. I'm gonna stop sharing because that's about it for me. Stacy, you're up.
Oh my God, Paul. Thank you.
No, Paris's name is Guru.
Oh, no. That's
It is Guru. It is
I'm
Guru.
giving time for people to ask questions and I'm trying to answer. Just one thing, Niagara University does offer online. However, the placements are in person.
Oh, yeah.
As they should be.
Yeah.
As they should be. I'm going to tell you, it is not an easy path. Don't expect it to be. That is my advice. Um, here's a little bit about myself.
Sorry, would you like me to share or will you share?
Sure, you share.
I'll
I'm
share.
working on this on my phone because I'm actually at my second job. Don't
Oh,
ask.
dear. Okay,
Long
one
story.
second.
So my name is Stacy. I took DST. I think I graduated in 2013, and when I started DST, I was pregnant. So DST baby is now 15 years old, and he's a whole lot of teenager. He's a whole lot of teenager. The courses that really helped in DST is actually being an EA beforehand. And when you get into DST, it's a lot more the profiling, not profiling, the word I'm looking for is the political side of it, which is really interesting as well. And that helps you with the process in teachers, not in teachers college, but in teacher life, because there is a lot of politics. And with my background, I was an EA for almost 20 years before I decided to become a teacher. And knowing the politics of it, of saying, no, you know what, you have to follow this because these are the rules. It is law. And then all of a sudden they kind of go, oh, okay. You know, having to follow the IEP. It's a rule, it's a law. You have to do this. And then people kind of go, oh, okay. And it helps you sort of dance around some of those things. I went back to teachers college when I was 40. So it was kind of shocking and a little frustrating sometimes to go back to school with 20-year-olds and going, oh, you know, we can sort of change the world. And you're going, yeah, you can. It's just going to be a lot slower than what you think it's going to be. But you know what? It does end up being worth it. I have no behavior problems in my class, believe it or not. Gee, maybe being an EA might have helped a little bit there. The downside of that is, yeah, you get stuck a lot of the time with the heavier needs. So somebody's asking about an ECE. Yes, you still have to do the full BEd. You still have to do the full BEd. Most of it is the placements. That's the biggest chunk of it. And you want to be in the schools. You want to be in different schools, in different boards, in different grades, so that you sort of know where you land. I agree with the take the primary junior and then upgrade. So no matter where you go, you have to take 4 courses afterwards in order to get up the pay grid. So you know what? If one of them's going to be getting you into those primary junior or intermediate senior levels, that's okay. So yes, AQ is additional qualifications for those who don't know. So you know what? It does end up being worth it. You start off in your first year about $10,000 more than you're probably making right now, but it is not an easy path. And you have to remember, like Nikki was saying, you have to have your boundaries. It has to be family first because we want to be good at what we do. We want to be successful at what we do. We want the Pinterest classroom. We want, you know, we want all our kids getting A's. And, you know, it's progression. It's the progress you're looking for, not the perfection. After being an EA for forever, I already had a lot of connections in the Catholic school board. So, you know, when your name starts coming up, they go, oh, okay, I know that name, or I've worked with her before, or, you know, all this kind of stuff. So that kind of networking helped. And then even when I was talking to people in HR, they sort of already knew who I was. So that was a natural progression for me. But you know what? Look at all the different boards. See what's there to offer you. You know, when you can supply from more than one board as well. So that's really helpful. And again, it gets you into as many classrooms, seeing as many faces as you can. And then, you know, when your name comes up for a job, it's like, oh, okay. I walked out of teachers college into a job. I did a 2-year LTO, long occasional long-term teacher right away. I mean, there's such a teacher shortage right now that as soon as you can get on the list, even uncertified, as an uncertified teacher. So, you know, at one point that was like, oh, no, don't do that. But at this point, if you're experienced, everybody's looking for it because we are so short. And as a lot of you guys know, you know, you guys are in the buildings, you know this. So all I can say is, you know what, go for it. Go for it, do your best. And you know what, if it's not your thing and you want to change careers again after that, it's okay. It is absolutely okay.
Thanks, Stacy.
No problem.
That was beautiful. Okay, should we take, Esther, would you like to say something or should we go to questions? And please feel free to put your hand up.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute. No, that was fantastic. Thank you, Stacy, Nikki, and Paul. Yeah, feel free. So for folks in the Zoom room, feel free to put your hand up or just drop a question into the chat. I'm going to ask one of the panelists, though, to do the reading of the questions to save Paris's voice and because, well, I won't see the question. So really, if you want to put your hand up, we'd all appreciate it. And I think I see at least one hand up.
It's Rasha.
Rasha?
Hi, you guys. I'm sorry. I always have questions, and please excuse me if it's. I know you said no dumb questions, but please excuse me. So, I have about 18 years teaching experience, and I taught in the Middle East. I taught also in Vancouver when I first started when I was very, very young. So, I just wanted to know. I mean, I got accepted into the Master's in Educational Leadership, and I already started one term. So I want to know, how is this going to help me? So if I do I'm done. Thank God I'm done with the DST. This is the last year. Thank God for Esther. Hands up for that.
Thank you.
100% thank God for that. And so I want to know, how is this going to help me if I were to go into, because I'm looking at the Yorkville one, there's a 2-year one. And I was looking at the Niagara, but Niagara is in the US, right? So it might be a bit.
Can I answer that one for you?
Can I finish my question just really, really quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to know how would that help me for wanting to improve? Let's say when I have all this and I've already been accepted into the master's, how is this going to add to what it is I need to do? Thank you so much, Stacy. Go ahead. Thanks, everyone.
So 2 things. A master's of education is not a teaching degree.
I honestly don't know if I want to go back into the classroom just
okay.
because I did 18 years of it.
Yep, that's
And
okay.
the whole reason
with the master's of education, you can write the curriculum, but you can't teach it. So, and if that's okay, that's no problem. The American, like Niagara, Potsdam is the other one. They do have an Ontario component, and that is really important because you, with your Ontario teaching certificate, you can teach anywhere in the world. You can go to Alberta and you don't have to take the next, like the test, the province test. But if Alberta comes here, they have to take the province test. You can teach anywhere in the world with your Ontario teaching certificate.
So
which to keep in mind.
Which one do you think would be better, the Lakehead one or the Niagara one?
It doesn't matter. You're both going to end up with an Ontario teaching certificate.
So the bachelor's in education, that gives you the teaching certification. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and that, do you guys know if that's fully online?
There are some that do online. Niagara University, for example, does it fully online now. Rasha, since you have taught, sorry, Stacy, to interrupt, just a quick question. Since you taught overseas and in Vancouver, I'm assuming then you have some sort of certification. So you might be able to bypass that. So you might want to talk to the Ontario College of Teachers to see if you have to do the full thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much, you guys. I honestly would rather just design curriculum for kids with disabilities. That's the whole thing that I want. And thanks a
Um,
lot.
Like
Yes.
Stacy was saying, we just hired, we as in me, a permanent teacher who was from Lakehead University, and last week we hired someone from Niagara. So I don't really care about university where they go because you get the same amounts. It's just your preference and what you prefer in the education and the professors.
And if it's fully online, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, that's what makes it much easier since if you're living, especially if you're living further away. Thanks a lot, you
Oh,
guys.
And Rasha, just to
think-
say,
Yes.
that program is online, but you still have an in-person component, right? So yeah,
Mm.
your learning will be online, but you will still have the expectation of being in a school board with a classroom with a mentor teacher or I forget the term, mentor teacher. And you have to pass that placement in order to continue on to the next placement and the next learning, if that makes sense.
It does. Do you know if they accept any overseas placements?
I'm not too sure. I don't know if we do that in Ontario. It's
No.
it's specific to our
No.
province only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
Complete
guess
You
I'll
may be
just-
thinking of like a private education institution abroad. That's completely different. They will hire people who have a bachelor in something, but in order to teach in an Ontario public or Catholic or French school, you need to go to a bachelor of education program. And right now in Ontario, that is 2 years.
Yes, and
Yeah.
even if
Okay.
you want to teach in a private school in Ontario, if you want to be in the classroom in Ontario, you have to have your Ontario certified teaching OCT.
Our OCT.
I've done 18 years. I would rather not be in it. So I've taught from KG up to grade 5, homeroom, all subjects. So I think I'd rather just stick to the leadership. Thank you very much, you guys.
Welcome.
I can ask the question. So before better me ask, so I can talk less. Before Melissa and Aisha, Nikki or Stacy, there's a question here. Can the school board for placements be in Ontario?
If you're learning in an Ontario university, then you could have, I'm not too sure, actually. That's a good question. I know when I went to York, I was supposed to be in a Peel classroom because my location was in a Peel school. But I was actually able to get a Halton placement, but I've just heard recently that you're not allowed to do that anymore. I've heard that you cannot select the board you want to work in, unless they are a location that has people from different areas. They may be, but I know for York, they do not allow you to, you're just placed and that's where you go.
Okay. The reason I
Mhm.
asked was because you were saying like the Niagara University, I know like the like content for the teaching or like for the courses is online, but then like expected to be in person for the placements. I just didn't know like, are you expected for the placements in the States or like for the placements like or in your region where you are?
Ontario.
Okay, that's what I
Ontario.
thought, but I
Yeah.
just wasn't sure.
Potsdam, Niagara, all of those guys, they have connections with the school boards here. And the every year the school boards ask, do you want to be a mentor teacher? And then they farm out the applicants
Okay, thank
that
you.
way.
Melissa, you have a hand up.
Hi, I actually had the same question to my education fully online, and I have not found anywhere in Ontario that has a component online. So also wondering if I do attend a school in the States, am I able to do my placements here in Ontario? So it sounds
Yes,
like I
you
can.
are.
Yeah, they all have connections with the Ontario because you end up with an Ontario teaching certificate.
Great. Thank you so, so much.
Aisha,
Yeah, hi, how are you?
tired you?
Fine. I have some question about myself. I have bachelor from my country, which is equal to bachelor in English in general. When I came here to Canada, they didn't accept it as license for teaching. So after that, I became a registered ECE, and this is my last year in disability studies program. I speak English, French, and Arabic. Now, sometimes I feel lost. So I heard that if I can take a course, TESOL, plus my bachelor, I can become OCT. Is this another way to become OCT more than attending 2 years teaching college?
No, there's no way around it. You have to attend an Ontario Teachers College. There are equivalent courses that you can take so that you can get exempted from some courses. But you have to take, there's no way around it. Trust me, I've looked, there's no way around it.
So 2 years. And if there's any college, online colleges, for example, here in Ontario, or all are in?
I haven't heard of anything in Ontario. I've heard Niagara and Potsdam. Queens is a lot online, but COVID, they're changing things after COVID. So you really have to look into it.
Okay. And they ask you the same question, but I didn't get the clear answer. Which is better, to have a bachelor, another 1 year to get bachelor in education, or to have to be OCT? And the result to be for sure to become a teacher. What is
Your
the difference?
Bachelor of Education is
Yeah.
your teacher college.
Okay.
Gives you the
So
OCT.
if you, that's which gives you your OCT, your certified teaching.
This is 1 year, as you told us, right?
2. It's 2.
So if I get to another 1 year, additional year, I have bachelor in education. So what can I work in school board?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not as a teacher, right?
No,
Yes.
you do as a teacher. Once you get your Bachelor of Education, you're certified to teach in Ontario, which means you can teach. However, I want to go back to one thing you mentioned, and you mentioned TOEFL, and that is to teach English as a second language in other countries. So if you want to teach in Korea or China or Japan or India, for example, then you could do the TESOL or TOEFL, but that is not to teach in a public school in Ontario. That is to teach overseas.
Okay. Okay. So what do you suggest? Having another 1 additional year plus my bachelor in disability studies to become OCT, or having 2 years in teaching college?
So
I can answer that for you.
Yes, please.
So if you have not applied for Teachers College, you are not in Teachers College.
Right.
So you need to apply to Teachers College, complete your 2 years of Teachers College, pass it, okay? Then you apply to the OCT to obtain a specific number that is connected to your name, and that is what verifies that you can teach in Ontario, okay?
Okay.
So once you're finished your Bachelor of Education program, because you've completed 4 years of university, or you've completed other types of universities in other places in the world, and you've checked in with that Bachelor of Education program to make sure that you met the criteria for the program, okay? You complete your 2 years in your Teachers College program. You graduate, and once you graduate, then you have to apply to OCT, which is the Ontario College of Teachers. That is what certifies every single teacher in Ontario. So if you have children, you can go on OCT, find a member or find a teacher, and you can type in your teacher's name and you can see all of their credentials. Every single one of them has gone to a Bachelor of Education program. Now, when we all went to Teachers College, it was 1 year. Currently in Ontario, it is 2 years. They made that switch a couple years ago. So everybody in this DST program who's graduating in the future will have to take a 2-year Bachelor of Education program.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make
That
sense?
in 2017 or 2018?
Yeah.
No, I'm
Cost-
lying to you. 16, 15, 2015.
16.
16.
I think there are some.
Cawthor
Thank you.
had a question. Would a
Thank you.
Bachelor of Education from University of British Columbia be accepted in Ontario?
You have to check in with the Teachers College. So yes, you may have to take a They call it an equivalency course. But yes, it will be accepted, but you may have to take an equivalency course to get your Ontario teaching license.
Those were all the questions in the chat.
Okay.
Great questions.
Yeah, very good questions. I'm surprised. Other years we get a lot of questions about the teachables and the concentrations.
Yes.
So we didn't hear those this year, but I did notice a number of names, and maybe they've dropped out of here. I noticed some people who are very early on in the program. Oh, I see Leah. So there's some people in here.
Oh,
one of the things.
Austin, sorry, Esther. Austin had a question, and then I have a statement, if that's okay.
That'd be perfect.
Austin?
Hi, I was just wondering if you knew more about, like, for example, I want to apply to the University of Windsor. Obviously, I'm just starting out the DST program, but a lot of the different programs I'm looking at for the Bachelor of Education, it's kind of saying that they want courses like 90 credits or 120 credits from a university.
That's your BA. That's your,
Yeah.
so your DST will count as the 120 or 90 credits or whatever that is.
Okay, so even if I got 2 years off because of my DSW, it will count no matter what?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
To save Paris's voice,
I
we've
I was
got
an EA before, Nikki
articulation.
was an EA before.
Yeah.
I am nodding. Yes, yes.
Yes.